always sat across from me in second period English class. She was constantly wearing all black, never bothered to brush her hair, she never cared to talk to anyone. I would always rant to her about my ideas and dreams of writing perfect stories. I watched her gaze as it admired my aspirations. She rarely responded to me when I talked to her, but I didn't care. Her jewelry was a contrast from her dull eyes, but when she was listening to me, I felt like I could see the same glimmer. I enjoyed those second period English classes. I enjoyed her company. I would follow her around the library when we went as a class and read the same stories she did. Though they were dark in comparison to what I commonly read, I enjoyed the brief glimpses into her mind. She would subtly smile as I turned each page, exaggerating my reactions for her to observe. These books grew in numbers over the months. Series were conquered like the mountains of madness, as if the only thing descending into entropy was our unfamiliarity with each other. I heard her soft voice, I touched her rough skin. I learned from her what I could never learn myself. It was the day that had been longed for across the eternity of the year, the last day of school. All the other students were celebrating their freedom and expressing themselves in newly artistic ways. But she and I felt distant from each other, a gap growing by each second, one that was soon to be too large to cross. I felt low, like an anchor falling to the end of a bottomless sea, only for a siren to reel me back in. She had bridged the jump, touching my shoulder and handing me a pen and an empty journal. The leather of it seemed to speak to me through her as a vessel, a source of both of our indefinite creation. She looked me in the eyes and told me to tell her my story. That summer I spent writing poetry for the girl who had bestowed upon me this task. It was different from our time in school, as I could never read her expressions correctly. With each stroke of the pen and each torn page, I completed works that described my emotions and fervent feelings. I left each entry in the bushes beneath her window, impaling a branch onto the thin paper. I never saw her personally that summer, but I knew she had been reading them. Each time I would return, a rose would have replaced the note, and soon enough that bush became nothing but roses. On the final day of summer, I received my own poem from the girl. It lay gently on my doorstep with my name written in cursive. The words inside shared my solitude, but strengthened this endless journey of ascent.
For you, a breeze in the wind, a leaf in a tree, a petal amongst the flowers of frost, things unseen but never lost, with hope as the only thing brought. You watched and I taught. I am a fever you have caught, but I have not what you sought. This dance comes to an end. I asked you, but you begin again. In respect you share my likeness, yet the currents sweep me instead. In the cold we lose brightness. You keep at bay the dread, but there was something you said, something that will never leave my head, now and long after I'm dead. We do this for our future selves, where we look back and see the past we've shed.
The next school year began as quickly as it had ended. Time moved on slower this time. The equations kept getting longer, the rhyme behind the reason lost its shine, and the lessons taught dulled in meaning. I found a different seat in my second period English class, as hers has remained empty for longer than I had cared to admit. I miss those days of peeking at her writings, unscrambling the mazes of my mind to her and sharing glimpses of our scars together. In some ways I felt that our time together was a haze, or a dream. That no matter what we did, it would always end in roses. 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 I sat alone in my second period English class, counting the poems written and matching the pages torn. Beauty seeped out of every word, blood stained the recovered paper and the newfound crevasses. I wondered what her future self would have thought at this moment. Would she still find the value in these crumpled up dreams of mine, or would she glance them over, like a long-lost friend? I had hope in my writings as I have hope in my future, that one day I will graduate from this second period English class, one where I'm not stuck between the reverberations of reality and her haunting memories. But as of now, I will continue to write, until my future self is ready. Ready to inherit my dreams.